This is my Phylum project archive for Chordata, and it is for Biology 102004. Chordata is a phylum in the kingdom Animalia. Phylum Chordata contains all vertebrates and some invertebrates, and to be qualified as a chordate organism, all organisms in this phylum must have a notochord, a dorsal hollow nerve cord, pharyngeal gill arches or slits, an endostyle or thyroid gland, and a post-anal tell. Notochords are seen here on this diagram on the right. They run below the dorsal hollow nerve cord, and they provide a flexible rod that develops into the spine in vertebrates. And notice this is the bony part of the spine, not the actual spinal cord. And the notochord provides a strong structure for axial muscles to attach to. The dorsal hollow nerve cord, which runs directly above the notochord in all embryos of chordate organisms, it develops into the central nervous system in vertebrates. It becomes the brain and the actual spinal cords of the nerves that run along the spine. And it also becomes the peripheral nervous system. So it is the base of the nervous system in chordate organisms. And the peripheral nervous system are nerves that are not attached to the central nervous system that provide sensory input throughout the rest of the organism's body. All chordates must also have pharyngeal gill arches or slits. These are seen on the bottom of the diagram in red. And in chordate organisms like fish, they remain as slits and they'll be used to filter out food and water. In other chordate organisms that don't need gills, they become structures like ears and other organs that otherwise might not develop. So they don't remain as pharyngeal slits. We don't need those gills as human beings, obviously, and most land mammals don't as well. So they take on other purposes after embryonic development. And the endostyle is a part of the pharyngeal gills or slits in organisms that maintain these. So the endostyle is a lining of smooth muscle that runs directly below the pharynx, and it transports nutrients taken in by the gills down into the digestive system and produces the same hormones as the thyroid gland. In mammals, land mammals specifically, this just becomes a thyroid gland. We don't need an endostyle because we have the thyroid gland. However, to be a chordate, one of the two must be present. All chordates have a post-anal tell, and humans and apes is the tailbone. It's a vestigial structure used to help with balance, but other than that, it doesn't serve a purpose anymore. For some land mammals like dogs, cats, tigers, etc., the tell can be used for communication. And in things like fish, animals like that, it'll derive into a fin or a tell. Notice that this diagram you see on the right is the embryo of all chordate organisms. So at some point during development, all chordate organisms will have this embryo. They'll look like this. I chose the Canis lupus familiaris. It's a subspecies of Canis lupus, and it is commonly called the domestic dog. The subspecies name Canis lupus familiaris notes the descent of wolves into dogs with the word lupus, and then the descent is then further described as dogs that are familiar to humans through the addition of the Latin word familiaris. And the information you see here on the right describes the taxonomic information, and it's from the Integrated Taxonomic Information System provided by the US government. So the images seen here are of my dog, Hunter. And how do I know that she's a domestic dog? Well, there's specific traits about her, like her friendliness, her docile nature, which I'm sure you wouldn't believe seeing her size, but she is a very gentle, docile dog. And the way she interacts well with humans. Whenever I was younger, she always played well with me, and that was great. You can also see in this picture here that she has webbed toes. This is an adaptation because she's a lab Burmese. The lab dog often has, the Labrador Retriever specifically, has to go swimming. They're a dog that loves to retrieve things. So she has webbed feet to help her with that. She also has specific camouflage patterns. As you can see as the picture on the far left, she has a white tip tail and white paws. And then as you can see in the picture in the middle, she has a line between her eyes and tan eyebrows. These features help her to camouflage in a snowy wooded area. Her mode of nutrition is a chemoheterotroph. She's in the order Carnivora, and this applies to all chordates, not just Hunter, but since she's a specific organism that we're talking about, that's what I'm going to reference. So how do I know that she's a chemoheterotroph? Well, since she's carnivore, she must be a heterotroph. She must consume other organisms. And how do I know about the chemo part? Well, she's not green. She doesn't perform photosynthesis. Therefore, she must form some form of chemosynthesis. And she does this by converting energy from prey into usable forms. So whatever energy that hunter gets from, say, a rabbit that she eats, a chipmunk that she eats, her bowl of dog food, she'll convert that into a usable form through many cellular processes like glycolysis, the Krebs cycle, some processes like that. And then she'll use those converted forms in the cytoplasm and mitochondria, along with oxygen that she breathes in, to produce ATP. And she gains carbon through consumption, and she gains a limited amount through inhaling that carbon that she needs. And she has limited energy due to trophic levels. Hunter is a very large dog. She weighs 96.6 pounds. So she has to gain energy a lot. So she'll do this by eating chipmunks that happen to run into the yard, squirrels, rabbits, anything she can find that she can catch, she'll eat. And she also eats her dog food. So she has, and the reason that she has to eat so much is trophic levels. So as you can see in this diagram here on the right, producers might make 10,000 calories, but then due to heat loss, the next animal to consume them, a rabbit, only gets 1,000 calories. Hunter's up here with the snake or the eagle, where she's only getting 110 calories per organism that she consumes. And so she has to eat a lot more. This is kind of the same with nutrients. It's not directly applied, but nutrients are also lost as other organisms use them. So she has to eat more to get the proper amount of nutrients to keep herself going and sustain the mitochondria in her body. So the mode of reproduction in chordate organisms is gametic meiosis. This is your typical sexual reproduction. There's a sperm, there's an egg, they're both haploids, they form a diploid. The diploid goes through mitosis and the organism eventually is formed. Dogs specifically go through heat cycles, and they have 2 heat cycles a year. And there's one period in the heat cycle that lasts from 3 to 21 days where they're able to reproduce. And they have 4 distinct stages of life. The first stage of life that's distinct to dogs is the puppy stage. It occurs 63 days after gestation, and it lasts until they're 18 months old. When the dog learns from its mother is when this stage is occurring. So dogs are born with a lot of innate instincts, but they're also born with some instincts that have to be honed, developed, and learned, like how to clean themselves, specific methods of hunting, etc. And they learn these from their mother in this time period. After that, they go into what's called the adolescent time period. And this is from ages 1 to 3. The dog grows to its full adult size, and it has adult fur. So instead of that soft, fuzzy puppy fur, they now have the coarser, thicker fur characteristic to adult dogs. And from ages 3 to 6, dogs will have less energy, but they'll still be somewhat playful. And notice that these age ranges here are varying based on the size of the dog. It takes Hunter a much longer period of time as a 100-pound dog to get to full size than it would like a Chihuahua that's about 10 pounds. So a Chihuahua might reach adolescence at age 1 and adult at age 3, whereas for Hunter, this was happening around age 3 or age 6. Senior age for dogs occurs at age 6 and up. And for larger dogs, this happens sooner because they're just bigger. Unfortunately, they tend to die much faster than younger dogs and smaller dogs. And from ages 6 and up, the dog will sleep more, eat less, have a gray muzzle, and move slowly. For Hunter specifically, she's 11 years old, and she now sleeps about 50% of the day. And when she was a puppy, she slept about 15% of the day. She's a very hyper dog. So source, range, and distribution. Hunter was found at a shelter in Caswell County, North Carolina, and domestic dogs can be found globally. They're bred interspecially to accommodate the climates and lifestyles of various countries. So in the United States, we like to have the hunting group. We like dogs that can run around, keep up with our kids for us, play fetch, be companions, be good on Instagram posts. In other countries, say Russia or other regions like Alaska, where you might need a sled dog, you have the husky breed, which it has much thicker fur. It's still a hunting dog, but it has ears that are more receptive to hunting prey, and it's more adept to living in the cold. So the population of domestic dogs is dispersive, and some countries have less than 4.1 million dogs, and the United States has 75.8 million domestic dogs, to tell you that there is a large range of some countries are dog lovers, and some countries probably prefer cats. Habitat. Domestic dogs live in residential areas with human owners. Non-hunting domestic dogs have been bred to have less predatory instincts. This relates to another bullet point where domestic dogs have better temperaments, more outgoing behaviors, and are more sociable than their ancestors, wolves. This helps them to fit in to their role as pets because they're able This helps them to fit into their role as pets because they're able to cooperate more easily with kids that might pull their tail, might try and pet them aggressively, might try and ride the dog. So they're not the hunting animals that they used to be. And some breeds have two coats, webbed toes, and different sized ears and bodies to help them survive in their climate. Where Hunter is from in the Burmese mountains, there's easily a foot of snow or more on the ground at all times. If she was a 12-inch dog, she would get caught up in the snow. However, she's about 3 feet tall, so she doesn't have that problem. It's an example of size being a helpful adaptation. And some domestic dogs have been bred to have less hair or shed less, preventing them from getting hair in human homes. And this is really just something that helps make cleaning easier. And for some people, it makes their dogs hypoallergenic, which can be really beneficial because they might be allergic to dog hair, but want a dog. So if they have a dog with less hair that doesn't shed as much, then they won't sneeze as much, and they'll be able to actually keep that pet. The primary ecological role of domestic dogs is extremely limited. They are chemoheterotrophs, so they are considered predators. However, they're only able to hunt when allowed to by human owners. So a lot of dogs, when let outside, will be on a leash and a fence, something like that, where they can't go extremely far, and their prey can easily outrun them as a result of this. If they were removed from the ecosystem, there might be an increase in rodents, small mammals, or fish in the area, but it wouldn't be a very significant increase. And as such, domestic dogs are not considered to be cornerstone or keystone species. And here are my references.